So it's Friday morning, and I'm sitting in the car park, just about to go into work, and I thought I'd share a few thoughts with you all that I've had over the last week. I know last Sunday, Denise preached on the fact that with forced isolation, it's given people a lot of time to think. My life's kind of been the opposite the last few weeks. We've been extremely, extremely busy. And we've had to reinvent the way we do virtually everything. If I give you a sort of an example, a lot of my patients are people recovering from problems with heroin or the painkillers that are very similar to heroin. And the way in which we treat them is that we do a lot of counselling and stuff to kind of uncover what's underlying it all. But in order to prevent them having to suffer with withdrawal symptoms, we give them medication. Medication which kind of in itself can be quite risky, can cause overdoses, particularly if it gets into the wrong hands. And so when we start people off on treatment, and often for months to years afterwards, we do what we call supervised consumption, which means they go to their pharmacy every day, apart from Sundays, and they pick up their medication and they take it in the pharmacy while the pharmacist watches them to make sure that it's found its way into the right person. Well, you can imagine a lot of the pharmacies have got quite restricted opening hours at the moment. Some of you might have queued in pharmacy queues anyway. But also, the patients I work with are often in that vulnerable category. They've also got kind of physical health problems, mental health problems. And so the ability to go every day and take their medication safely has been taken away from them. So in order to ensure that they stay safe, we've had to do things like nurses go and pick up medication and take it to patients' homes. And whenever you get a new way of working, you have to have guidelines, you have to have documents that say how you're supposed to do things. So for the last couple of weeks, that's kind of been what I've been doing most of the time, writing lots of documents, sorting out problems on the spot as they arise, and working alongside our bosses and Welsh Government to try and make sure that they're all those very brave doctors and nurses who are working front line with coronavirus patients, but the rest of the NHS has still got to keep ticking in these weird times. So new ways of doing things, and everybody's got new ways of doing things. We've got new ways of communicating with one another that we might not have used before. There's new ways of doing your shopping that we haven't had before, and new ways of worshipping that we haven't had before. And there's a Bible verse, and some of you might have guessed, it keeps coming to my head, which is that verse from the second letter to the Corinthians: when anyone is joined to Christ, they are a new being. And it got me thinking, that choice of the word being, it's not a new believer. Sometimes we overemphasize the belief side of our faith, but it is about being, it's about doing. If the clever people in public health were saying, this is how you wash your hands, this is how you do social distancing, and then they didn't do it themselves, then we'd have something to say about it, wouldn't we? And the important thing about being joined to Christ is we want to be different. And then that chorus comes into my head that we used to sing quite a lot when I was a Corps cadet, to be like Jesus. And the line that always used to stick in my head and which used to really, really challenge me was, this hope possesses me. And that use of the word possesses is quite strong. And sometimes I felt like I couldn't sing it. And probably for most of us, that would be difficult. Does the idea of being like Jesus possess us? Is it what we are chasing all the time? And that's been a real challenge to me in these last couple of weeks. I've not had the time to kind of sit and contemplate, maybe as much as I would have liked to have done, considering that it's Lent and we're not far off Easter week. But in amongst all the hustle and bustle, that still small voice has kind of broken through to me, and it felt really important and something that I wanted to share. I hope when all this is done and dusted, the world doesn't forget, and that the caring, compassionate nature that's come out of people during this pandemic, and the way we've stopped and we've let the world heal for a bit. You know, hearing things like the hole in the ozone layer's got smaller already. I hope we don't stop some of those things. I hope that we have a new way of being in our general life. But I think tying this pandemic up to the fact that we are just off Easter, the challenge to me really is that, can people tell I'm joined to Christ? Am I a new being? Do I behave differently? And that was just something I wanted to share with people. I'd better go into work now because there's CCTV cameras covering this car park and the nurses will be wondering why I haven't got out of the car yet. Hope to see you all soon when all this is said and done. God bless.